Bank of America on the corner. Atlas, Artemide. What's up above? What's in those? What's up there? Cafe Umbria. Davidson Galleries. Glasshouse Studio. Grover Thurston Galleries. What's up above? They look like people live in those places. They look like offices. Or they look like someplace that the soldiers are going to come live in. Maybe the generals. This across the street is Occidental Park that used to be different. This has been changed. There used to be a bowl. That used to be a bowl. This used to be trolley. The trolley stop. To the fallen soldier, to the fallen firefighters. This memorial sculpture is dedicated to the Seattle firefighters who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. We honor them for their heroism. Citizens of Seattle, June 6th, 1998. It's my intent to create a memorial that is forever uplifting the spirits of the firefighters and viewers alike. The Seattle Fallen Firefighters. These are names. Board founder, president, vice president of the Seattle Firefighters Memorial. Mayor of Seattle, Paul Schell. Wonder how many starving people could have been fed with this. Nobody comes here to look at it. See all these names? See all these names? Pay tribute to remember the Union will never forget those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Well, if you hadn't built all these things up, we wouldn't have to have fires. Memorial sculpture was created by the sculpture students at the University of Washington. This place used to be different. It wasn't flat. Over here, there was a bowl that went down that was absolutely beautiful. Over there we have Native American totem pole and a couple of African, I don't know. Saw this in another place too. Highs and lows, Washington women finally get to vote, 1910. There you go. The ranks of the dispossessed swelled during the Great Depression in 1930s. This is Hooverville. They got to be homeless and build up shacks, didn't they? What about the homeless today? The Rebel Girl. 1900, Seattle was becoming a major part for Asian trade. Patriotic throngs cheered military units in 1913 Golden Potlatch Parade. Then there was a rioting mob. Preservation and loss. Highs and lows. Preservation and loss. 1970 City Council passed an ordinance creating Pioneer Square Historic District. 1950 Skid Row was a neighborhood of flop houses, factories, and boarded up buildings. Says restore Skid Row. Pioneer Square, Seattle. Early 1960s, city leaders proposed flattening Pioneer Square for a parking lot. Following the initial investment of private property owners and developers, the city replaced the parking lot with Occidental Square Park. Left Bank. The Lyric Theater was the last of the box houses where waitresses would double as prostitutes and performers in curtain balcony boxes. By 1900, theater would clean up its act and move north to liquor-free venues. Mid-1960s, Richard White opened his art gallery. Shelley Legg opened in 1973. First disco. Filipinos gathered. 1930s, immigrants. Urban frontier. More than 40 New England women took Asa Mercer up on his promise of job opportunities and journeyed with him to Seattle. In 1886, hard economic times fueled racism. Henry Yesler built Puget Sound's first steam-driven sawmill. Prospectors and prospects. Gold rush. Not everyone struck it rich, but Seattle merchants mined the miners. Depression broke July 17th, 1897. Prospectors James Hill chose Seattle. Great Northern Railroad. Journey to the future. Welcome to Pioneer Square, the birthplace of Seattle. Pioneer Square. Boom and bust. Walking tour. Vice and virtue. Vice versus virtue. Exploitation. Adaptation. Boom and bust. Vice versus virtue. Exploitation. Adaptation. Rise like the phoenix. Great fire of June 17, 1889 demolished 30 blocks of Seattle, including downtown. City engineers sluiced down steep hills, filled in tide flats, buried Seattle underground, which you can tour today. Referring to the area, the Seattle Post-Intelligencer proclaimed, never again need this section be used for despicable purposes. But businesses quickly popped up where they had been before. The city's foremost office buildings and hotels were a stone's throw away from cheap boarding houses, brothels, and saloons. Romanesque buildings rose from the ashes. Birth of a city on November 13, 1851. Friendly Duwamish native families watched as the Denny party came ashore. In 1852, most of the settlers moved to the shelter harbor across from Elliott Bay. Native Americans were here first. Warriors from hostile tribes attacked Seattle. David Doc Maynard's idea to change the name from Duwamps to Seattle after his friend and charming Maynard gave away much of what is now Pioneer Square to help the city grow. Much of what is now Pioneer Square was forest, tidelands. Pioneers used sawdust from the mill for landfill around the island. The city continued to lower steep hills and fill in the tide flats for more than half of a century. This composite map of Seattle's birthplace. That is what happened here in Seattle. Occidental Park, waterfront, streetcar.